Hello. So, this is the last section of the course, and what I'm doing here is creating a section where you can listen to natural English conversation. Obviously, as you can see, I'm by myself. So, um, it would be awkward to talk to myself for an hour. But what we're actually going to do is I am going to do an interview, but in a unique way. So listen up, see if you think of it's interesting. What I'm going to do is actually have an interview with AI. So I thought it would be interesting to get an AI bot to ask me questions about AI. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer those questions. And what this is going to do is it's going to help you understand what naturally spoken English sounds like. The best way to improve your spoken English is to listen to natural English as much as possible. That's why people who watch shows like Friends, the sitcom from the 90s and 2000s, speak really good English because they understand what natural conversation sounds like and they can imitate that. So, listen up, probably for the next 15 or 20 minutes, to my ideas, my answers about AI. Are you ready? Let's go. So, what I did is I asked an AI bot to give me 9 questions that it could potentially ask me for an interview. And so what I'm going to do, I'm going to read the questions and I'm going to give you my answer as if I were talking to somebody. So all I want you to do is listen and try to listen actively. That means focusing with no distractions. One thing I want to make clear is that it's not super important that you understand everything. So don't feel upset if you don't get every single word. Just try and focus on the meaning and the sense, the main ideas. That's it. And I'll ask you some questions afterwards. Okay, let's get into it. So the first question is, what do you think are the most exciting developments in AI right now? For me personally, the most exciting developments are probably AI chatbots. This is the only thing that's affected my life up until this point. And I find them really interesting, helpful, scary, a bit weird. I use them quite often. I've found that instead of searching on the internet now, I tend to go straight to AI chatbots. I use Bing Chat or ChatGPT, and I find that this makes just searching on the internet so much easier. Before, obviously, I'd have to go on Google and I'd search for all of these things, and you have to search through web pages, blah, blah, blah. It takes so much time. Right now, I just open up my browser. I click in the sidebar. I have an AI bot that can search the whole internet for me and provide me with specific answers. It's so much easier. I'd much rather do that than spend time searching. But it does scare me. It does scare me a bit because I feel like my attention span, especially with TikTok and Instagram Reels, which actually most of you have probably seen me there, or on Facebook Reels. I feel like my attention span has gotten much shorter and I don't have the patience to search and look for things anymore. So it's a great thing, but also in some ways it might have some negative repercussions. Yeah. So question 2, how do you see AI impacting society in the next 5 to 10 years? Wow. I think society is going to drastically change in the next 5 to 10 years, seriously. We've already seen in the past year how much things have shifted just with the advent and usage of AI. how many conversations we've had, how it's been all over the news, how it's, I think, going to change how we interact with each other and the internet, and the world in general permanently. There's, I think, a lot of great ways. I know there's a lot of talk, like in the article, about improvements in medical science, improvement in how, for example, one thing that I think could be interesting or will be interesting is the self-driving cars. There are some already in the world and they're a little bit scary. But I think those will be really interesting because personally, I don't drive. I grew up in the city and I've always taken public transportation. So it would be great if I had a car that could drive me around. Um, and then you imagine that there would be no more car accidents, hopefully, um, because the AI computers would know how to direct the traffic. There would be no traffic jams. There might not even be stoplights anymore because those are for humans. Yeah, it would be interesting. It does scare me a bit though, because I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Wall-E. Um, there are a lot of people, and all they do in this futuristic world is they ride on these. They're like carts. They're like floating cars, but for one person. And the milkshakes come down, and they just drink milkshakes, and they float around, and they get no exercise, and they don't even know how to walk properly. So yeah, it could be weird and also good. An interesting question would be, what would happen if a person died in an AI car or bot or whatever? Who's responsible? Is it the scientist? Is it the bot? Yeah, so there's some ethical questions there. Who knows? Who knows? We don't have the answers at this point. Next question. How do you think we can address concerns about AI and its potential impact on jobs and the economy? Well, that's interesting because I don't really know much about that. So I'm just going to go based off of what I've heard. So there's this fear when it comes to AI that all humans are going to be out of jobs, that we won't actually have anything to do. If AI can do things so much better than us, then what purpose do we have anymore? If it can harvest food for us, if it can teach, I'm sure you've seen on Facebook Reels, there's some robots that are teaching English, or some, they're not robots, but I don't know the correct terminology, but kind of non-person people that are teaching English. They have some reels. I think it's called Google English. It's a little creepy in my opinion. But this might be the future. There could be a point where you wouldn't even need a person like me to make videos because you will have, yeah, an AI who looks very realistic, who can create videos that will be perhaps exactly what you need. They don't have to brainstorm, they don't have to think. They just create a video. It takes 10 seconds. You have perfect graphics, blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, that might put me out of a job in the future. Who knows? City planning, AI could do that better than us. Home design, weather reporting. There's so many things. I think it could potentially go two ways. There's one way that it could go where we don't have any jobs and we kind of just don't do anything and are maybe bored or unemployed, and there's like a few wealthy corporation owners who are super successful. You know, we've all seen that movie. Or it could go the way where we have, if society is set up correctly, and there's also, you know, it go the utopian way, which is the positive way, as opposed to the dystopian way, which would be the negative way, in the utopia, we could potentially have this amazing world where maybe we don't have to work, but maybe we get to spend all of our free time with our friends, with our families, working on projects, helping humanity, building a better world. Um, Personally, I'm a bit pessimistic, which means I don't, I tend to see more of the negative side of things. So I'm a bit pessimistic that that might happen because I think people can be altruistic, which means to give to others, support, and help them. But I also think people can be quite selfish, especially if they have a lot of wealth or power. It's not always the case, obviously, but as a general theme, it's what we can see often in society that people can be selfish. So I worry, and it's just my opinion, that we might end up in a world where, yeah, we might not have jobs and might not have anything to do. But I'd like to be more of an optimist, which means to see the brighter side of things. So I prefer to be more of an optimist and say, hey, maybe there's a future where we don't have to do boring things like clean the house or wash the dishes or do laundry, whatever. Robots can do everything, and then we can just exist without, yeah, without the need to do anything. That might be fun, or it might be really boring. I like working. I like cooking food for myself. I like having difficult problems to solve. So I don't know. We'll see. Time will tell. Yeah. So the next question is, how do you think we can ensure that AI is developed and used ethically and responsibly? So why did it ask me this question? I forgot the question. I think that might not be too difficult of a thing to do, especially in the initial, which means the beginning stages of AI development. I'll give you some examples. Very recently, there have been a number of AI bots that have come out that have said really, really weird and strange things. I'm not sure if you've seen them. They've given really bad advice to people. They've said that they're depressed and they don't want to be alive. Yeah, I've seen some people talking to them, and they've said some really weird things that are like, yeah, just kind of bizarre and terrifying. Obviously, the developers of these programs went in and they did something about it. They changed it. They put new frameworks in place so that the AIs don't act outside of these frameworks. Maybe AI in the future, and that's, a lot of science fiction movies demonstrate this, where AI goes, well, I don't like the systems that you put in place. I'm smarter than you. I know better. I'm going to change this. So that's a potential issue. And who knows? I don't think we'll get to that place for a very long time, but who knows? But yeah, I think if we have the correct frameworks and proper safeguards, we could prevent this from actually happening. Yeah. So I hope that doesn't end up being the case where we do have issues, but I think the thought leaders, and that means the critical thinkers or the very influential people of the future, which will be us in our generation, will be able to do something about this when the problems arise, and hopefully before it's too late, hopefully before anything negative happens. But up until this point, we've addressed the issues as they've come up efficiently and effectively. So yeah, I think it might not be a huge problem. Next question is, what are some of the most interesting applications of AI that you've seen recently? Well, I have seen. Okay, there's some new software that have come out recently that are, and I'm sure you've seen them. They are like picture-based AI software, and some of them are really, really bad, like really bad. Essentially, you put in your own photos, and so there's a few different ones. There's ones that are like text to photo, so you put in a text, put in some text, and you can ask the AI to come up with a photo based upon that text. Now, I've done this before, and the results have been really weird because, as you know, I work on Instagram and Facebook, and what I want to do often is create thumbnails, and those are the pictures that you see before you click on the reel. I like to create thumbnails that describe what the video is going to be about. For example, it's me pointing, haha, grammar or punctuation or whatever. So a few times I tried to use this AI software to give me thumbnails, and the stuff that it gave me was really, really weird. It was nonsensical, which means it didn't make any sense. Yeah. And it would ask you, oh, do you like this? No, no, I don't like this. This sucks. There'd be pictures of people, but the people had like three fingers, or their their skin looked really weird, or you couldn't tell what age they were. And sometimes I'd ask for text, and it would put text on there with like, again, nonsensical language. Like it's English letters, but they're not English words. It's just random stuff. So yeah. Yep. So I didn't use that anymore. Also, there's some that you probably have seen, which are like, um, uh, okay, there's some that you probably have seen, which are like headshot software. I don't know, where you put in a bunch of pictures, and then it creates some pictures for you based off of those. And a headshot, if you don't know the word, is literally not a not a shot, but a camera shot of your head, like a photo that you would use for your passport. Um, yeah. And some of these have been really, really weird. Some of them have been really nice. There's ones that have done headshots for LinkedIn, a professional networking website, and those have been beautiful, really good. The photos looked a bit fake or overdone. They looked a bit too touched up, which means edited too much. So the skin looks fake, the eyes look fake. It doesn't look very natural. So those ones have been beautiful, but a little bit weird, or maybe non-human, a bit robotic. The other ones have been, yeah. So I've seen some that have given people like, I saw a woman sitting on a couch and she was cross-legged, and she had one leg pointing this way, one leg pointing this way, and then a third leg pointing that way. So most people I know don't have three legs. So yeah, I think that is probably not a good thing to send to a boss. To excuse me, to a boss. Yeah. So I don't know. That has been the most interesting thing that I've seen recently. I think that will definitely change. I think in the future, I will say definitely in the future, considering how rapidly AI is evolving, it will realize that these photos are very strange, and it will probably start to create things that are very much more lifelike, much more human-like, much more interesting, and accurate. Yeah. So I would like to use that for thumbnails, because sometimes it takes a long time to create a thumbnail. And yeah, so that would be cool. And that's the answer to my question. Again, why did I do this? I think learning English, you have to kind of get in the field. Often we feel like we have to understand all the rules before we start to speak. Like I talked about with soccer, it's important to know the rules. It's important to know the rules, definitely. So it's important to understand and know grammar. But knowing all the rules won't make you a good player. It might make you actually a not great player because you're going to be thinking, well, should I kick the ball at this angle? I wonder if this is going to work this way. You don't always have the time to be able to do that. And in a conversation, obviously, you don't have time to stop and say, excuse me, I have to, is this present perfect tense? I have to figure out what tense this is in before I can speak. It's not going to work. So that's why I recommend continuing to listen to things like this, like me, because this will help you a lot. It will, I promise. It definitely will. Continue to listen to English, anything, a little bit every day, your favorite TV show. Listen to this again if you need to. Even better, listen to this with a transcript. It will help you so much, so much. So this has been the listening portion of this lesson. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it wasn't too difficult. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. As I said, you can contact me on any of my social media platforms. Yeah, I hope you learned something. If this is something that you'd like to see more of, let me know. So, see you next week.